Let's talk about
Let's
it.
talk about Warner Brothers Discovery. So this article is from Variety.
Mm-hmm.
It says here the headline is Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, but yeah, I know who I'm talking about. David Z, not to be confused with the shoe store. His 2023
David
compensation,
Z. Forgot about
his
David Z.
2023 compensation rises 26.5% to nearly $50 million. Uh, the
That's the
reason this is
total
interesting,
compensation, you said?
it goes up to 50 mil, 23.6%.
Mm-hmm.
26.5%. All right, big ad here. Thank you. Please get off my screen. Next. Um, the reason this is interesting, Variety knew to start with the reasoning.
Of
And
course.
so the very first thing it says is Warner Brothers Discovery has been in cost cutting mode. I'm gonna say it again, Dr. Umar style.
Oh my
Warner
gosh, please.
Brothers Discovery has
No.
been in cost cutting mode, except when it comes to paying top execs.
Which is usually the case.
Right.
It takes something like a pandemic for them to be like, oh, we'll take a pay cut, or we'll slash our bonus in half, or we'll not get a bonus this year. I think a lot of CEOs in 2020 didn't take their bonuses. But what I'm trying to say is it's usually under a very extenuating circumstance. Otherwise, they get their money
Right.
while the rest of us get laid off.
Right. Back to the article.
Uh-huh.
David Zaslav, president and CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery,
Mm-hmm.
had a 2023 pay package worth $49.7 million, up 26.5% from the year prior, according to the company's 2024 proxy statement filed Friday. Well, this is a week old, so
Mm-hmm.
not just this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna keep saying his name. I'm not. His
So,
compensation totaled $39.3 million in
mm-hmm.
2022 after he received an astonishing $246.6 million, which included $203 million in stock option grants in 2021. What you just said about that pandemic?
The best of times. Well, not about the pandemic, but I'm just saying when they're getting paid like that. Also, interesting. That's very interesting, and that could have been a sign of, um. Well, no. Go
A
ahead.
sign of no. For
Sorry.
2023,
Uh-huh.
Zaslav had a base salary of $3 million.
Okay.
Stock awards valued at $23.1 million, a cash bonus of $22 million, and $1.6 in other compensation,
Mm-hmm.
including $705,182 for personal security services and $767,908 for his personal use of the company's private jet.
I was just about to say,
Shout
is that
out
his transportation budget? But sure enough.
Shout out to Variety for having this in excruciating detail. I appreciate them doing that. They definitely did not need to.
No. But it is
But
very, it is, I appreciate the breakdown because you often hear that this CEO made this amount of money, but it really isn't like just their base pay. There's a lot of different factors that go into what they take home at the end of the year. So,
right. I'm gonna skip a little bit because it speaks about other people's salaries that are execs. I want to focus on him.
uh-huh.
Um, if y'all want to know about the other execs, y'all can go check out Variety's article. This
Yeah.
is not an ad. They did not pay us.
No, they did
Uh,
not, but they can call us.
Call me now.
Ring off Miss Ellie.
Exactly. The company made notable headway here. Its reported free cash flow for 2023 was 6.16 billion,
I hope
up
everybody got raises.
86%, up 86% year over year.
Mm-hmm.
That helped the company pay down some of its massive debt load. Warner Brothers Discovery ended 2023 with 41.9 billion in long-term debt, an improvement from 48.6 billion the year prior.
Okay.
In addition, his cash bonus was awarded under his May 2021 employment agreement pursuant to the proposed AT&T deal
Mm-hmm.
for Discovery to buy Warner Media, which closed in April 2022, under which he agreed to remain CEO of the combined company.
So hopefully that means that lower level employees also got bonuses because the company was up. Technically, I know they have debt, but the way the structure works, it's not necessarily 1-to-1.
This is true. That said, I'm not saying that, the article says that. In 2023, Warner Brothers Discovery's linear TV and advertising businesses shrank and its studio revenue dropped 12%, while its direct-to-consumer streaming division eked out a nominal profit for 2023. The company reported the full year 2023 revenue of 41.3 billion, down 4% on a pro forma basis, and a net loss of 3.13 billion versus 5.36 billion on a pro forma basis in 2022. So he came in and crushed the game. That's what all of this is saying. For those who are not following along.
So he brought the company back to, is that what the sentiment is there, that he they're seeing growth under his leadership?
Correct.
Well, that's
There's a
good.
quote here. Yep. There's a quote here. 2023 was a challenging year for WBD and for the media and entertainment industries as a whole, the company said in its proxy filing. We were impacted by the changing landscape of advertising spending
Mm-hmm.
and continued weakness in the advertising market overall. Declines in linear television viewing, increased competition from other traditional media companies, and the enhanced presence of large technology companies in the media space. Lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on movie theater attendance and other general macroeconomic conditions. It also cited the once in a generation work stoppage last year by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA. Despite these challenges, the board's compensation committee believes our CEO and other named executive officers provided exceptional leadership and delivered on several financial, operational, and strategic properties.
So everybody probably made a little something last year.
It's just weird, and this is why I think it's interesting. Which I don't think this article did a good job on focusing on the cost cutting mode which they started. But we've been hearing about the they have been speaking. Warner Brothers Discovery has been speaking a lot about debt.
Yeah.
They've been talking about how important it is for them to cut their debt, which they have done in which the article says,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great. However, I don't need specs. However, as they're cutting projects, as they're cutting jobs, this man is getting a pay raise. And I think that's interesting. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's foul. And so we got movies that have completely been scrapped, projects, all these things, because they're trying to do everything they can. You good?
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
It's all good. They're trying to do everything they can to decrease their debt.
Yep.
And so for this man to get that much of a raise is really interesting to me. I feel like uh, is weird. I mean, on one side, yeah, I see that it's corporate usual move, right? It's
Yeah.
like business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side, it's like, how y'all doing all this cost cutting and trying to drop, you know, not have movies be released because they're not going to bring in money and you're so focused on the debt. But yeah, but I got to get paid too, though.
Well,
And that's a big ass increase.
but that's why I say it's not 1-to-1. So like it doesn't. So the debt that the company has, and I don't know that this is every company. This is just like in to my knowledge, and having worked at a media company, that not that one, but one similar, the the debt is not necessarily like there's different buckets, right, that the revenue goes into. Just like anything else, there's budgets across the board that make up a total budget. And so the way the budget gets allocated determines where the money goes, right? So maybe the goal was if we make X amount of dollars
Mm-hmm.
overall, we pay off X amount of debt. But that doesn't necessarily mean that people don't get pay raises or people don't get bonuses, or because I know like in our minds, like logically, the way the way we work is as regular people, right, is that if we have a debt and we have money come in, the money that's coming in is covering the debt, right? And then whatever's left is what you have. That's not necessarily how it works. So if it's working based on these different buckets, it's likely that they had a certain amount of dollars that they were always going to allocate towards debt, and they were always going
Right.
to allocate towards programming, towards compensation, towards this and that. I'm not saying, I know I sound very like probably very pro capitalist right now, but
Yes.
I always come on here and say that I'm never going to be a hypocrite, and I have benefited from this type of structure before. Like, as being a person, that's why I kept saying, if you notice, I kept saying, oh, so everybody probably got paid. Like, people who are lower level employees who are a part of the bonus structure, they should have gotten bonuses too. I don't know that to be true. I have no I have no way of knowing that. But I would imagine if the CEO was able to get his bonus, yes, there are times where the people who are not nearly as high up don't get theirs. But my guess is if they were up by that much, everybody probably did get compensated as they had planned, right? um Also, that would also contribute to like whether people got increases or not, if they have some sort of increase structure. Which again, I don't know this to be true, but I'm just saying, i
Right.
think that I think that there is a world where everybody benefits from this. Obviously, the people at the top benefit way more because the people at the bottom probably deserve more of a bonus than they received,
Right.
more higher raises than they might have received. Their overall base salaries probably should be a lot higher than they are. Like that, I'm not negating any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, overall, it sounds to me like the company probably performed well and people were able to benefit from that. We don't get the transparency of seeing what everybody in the company made, so it's kind of like you really don't know, and it's a private company, so what the scale doesn't really matter because it's arbitrary. It's whatever they do. But this actually made me think about years ago, because I thought when I looked at the article, I felt like it was not a lot of money. And I know that sounds crazy, but $50 million. These media CEOs, just listen to what I'm saying. These media CEOs in the past, like when we're not in an economic downturn, when there isn't a writer's strike or whatever, they make almost $100 million a year. I remember, I remember years ago, before it was Paramount Global, when the CEO was Philippe Dumas, it was a huge deal when he made, I think, almost $90 million in one year in the early 2010s. So that's why I'm saying that. I was actually surprised, and I even looked up current Paramount Global CEO because I was like, oh, let me compare. I want to see like what the comparison is there. I think he made something like 30 million, 33 million or something like that last year. So they're still making a hell of a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. And a lot of that is not even, like you said, it's not even their base pay. It's kind of crazy though, because the people on the bottom are making what, $60,000, $75,000, maybe $100,000, depending on what type of level you're on. It's crazy the way that these structures work. And you could be working for the same company and you could be making $50,000 and someone else is making $50 million. Nuts.
And that is called capitalism.
Yes, it absolutely is. Yeah.
I disagree. I think that that's a big ass increase.
Mm,
Uh, it's not apples to apples,
no.
but uh, those people at the bottom that you're talking about,
Mm.
they often get tiny ass 3% raises
Yes,
year
that
over
is
year.
absolutely true.
So if this person at the bottom is getting a 3% raise and the person at the top is getting a 26.5% increase, um, that's a lot of that's a big difference, especially when your salary is already a lot of money. And even the comparison you made of the CEO of Paramount, who's making 33, this guy's making 50.
No,
Uh,
I totally understand. I'm the year that the Viacom CEO made almost $90 million. I think I was making $45,000.
right. And so I think that, again, for me, the focus is, or rather, what I think is important to focus on is all of this cost cutting. And so it is really, really interesting. I totally understand what you're saying about the different buckets and the way that companies schedule out payouts for different things. Budgets are allocated in many different ways. Totally understand all of that.
Mm-hmm.
When what we see and hear very often from you as a company is cost cutting, cost cutting, cost
Mm-hmm.
cutting. This movie didn't come out so that way we could write it off for tax purposes, and this movie got scrapped because we don't want to spend that budget because of this. And like all of the stuff we've heard since he got there is about cost cutting.
Well, because he's trying to make sure he gets paid, especially if his base salary is only $3 million and he stands to make, I don't know, because they project, right? So they project based on what they have working and what they think they could make. If they think they could make 80 million, if they think they could make enough money for him to be paid out $80 million at the end of the year, I'm just making up a number, then he is going to he is going to do whatever he thinks he needs to do to make sure that at the end of the year he's not only making $3 million, which I'm
Yes.
not saying is right. I'm just saying I'd imagine that's his motivation there. I would imagine it's not really about any of that stuff. It's got to be pretty self-serving when you know that you stand to make so much money off of the revenue that comes in from ad dollars and from creating, the blockbuster movie of the year and all of that. So yeah. Listen, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a good thing. I guess what I was trying to say is that when when the when the company is suffering, it is the people at the bottom who suffer the most. And when the company is thriving, while the people at the bottom don't benefit as much, they benefit more than they would have if the company did not perform well. So I think my thought process is that I would rather see them have a year where those people benefit than have a year where they don't, or have a year where they are losing their jobs, or having to take a pay cut, or having to miss out on the bonus pay that that is incentivized based on whether the company performs well or not. Things like that. That's what I mean. I mean, it may be a twisted way of thinking of things, but yeah.
Got it. You on some glass half full. I'm on some glass half empty.
Yeah. And I'm also on
Because
some, I've worked for a media conglomerate before, and I know what it's like to have an up year, and I know what it's like to have a down year. And yeah, everybody at the bottom suffers, because at the end of the day, if let's say, like I said, 45K, if the person making 45K doesn't get a bonus that year, it's impactful. Whereas the CEO who got a who is still has is still making millions anyway, whether they get half of the bonus or none of the bonus or whatever, they still made millions. So it matters, I guess, is the way I'm thinking about it. It matters to that person at the bottom, but you know, it's not
yeah, and
fair.
I think it matters when your company keeps speaking about cutting costs.
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
26.5% is not a small amount of increase.
No, it's absolutely not. I didn't think we would be talking about this for this long.